back then, at the time, I was 15 years old back then in 1961, and I know my dad was on the board. He was come home and he said, we're going to spend a lot of money to do a big race, and he said, I hope we at least break even on it. So from then on, why, every year it just kept gaining and getting bigger and bigger. I know they announced it here at the racetrack, and then there was several ads like in the local papers. I originally grew up in Pleasantville, Iowa, and there was a big ad in the paper there that saying that there was going to be a national event. My mom and dad camped where the elevator is now to go up to the suites now, so that's where we camped. So we come in early that Friday afternoon, and Dad was doing something here at the racetrack, and we was getting ready for qualifying night. That was probably Roy's with the air scoop was probably the big talk. I mean, it was parked back here, you know, in an open trailer back then, and people, and even I went over and everybody looked at it with that air scoop like they couldn't figure out what that was and everything, you know. So it was, there was a lot of cars just parked around getting ready to go in the infield as they come in through the Friday in a way. Saturday, it was kind of like it is now. It's just started to grow and be an all-day event. I mean, people was coming in and camping, and back then they had the hot setup was a pickup with a camper on it, and people was just sitting around in the lawn chairs and visiting with one another, and it was like the excitement was getting in the air. A friend of mine walked down to the intersection here south of town, or south to the first intersection, and one of the city cops was down there with a hand control regulating the stoplights, trying to get everybody to come in, and we'd heard that people coming in from the north was backed up for several miles to get here in a way. What I can remember back then is the old wooden bleachers, and then part of the grandstand was covered, you know, even back then. That was really nice. The old wooden fences around the racetrack and stuff, it's nothing like it is at this day and age. And I think they run heat races, and I don't think they run like a EB or, you know, ED or whatever. I think they just like run a B main and an A main, if I remember right. I could be wrong on that. Being from Pleasantville, Iowa, just up the road here, my favorite driver at probably of, I'm going to say of all time, was Earl Wagner from Pleasantville, because he was a local hometown boy, and we seen him every day and whatever, and that he was one of my favorites. Rayleigh Goodwin was a favorite of mine. The Well boys kind of fascinated me with the cars that they brought and stuff. That was probably, back in that time, my favorites. Earl was just a common old ordinary Iowa boy, you know. He was hard working at what he did, and if he stopped to visit with you, well, you better plan on being half hour to an hour to visit, you know. He wouldn't say much about racing unless you'd ask him about it, but he'd talk about his plumbing business or what he was doing or this and that. Well, I've been very fortunate to see all of them. Of course, today in the modern age, I'd say probably my favorites would probably be in the first few years that they had them, because all the cars back then were homemade cars, and like Earl and Slim Guteneck, they took the motor out of a regular street car and put in there through the week and stuff that I can remember. So that's what really fascinated me about them. And even though the cars today are all pretty much look alike, the cars back then kind of, everybody had their own little vision of how to make it go faster or something. If you would happen to wreck it or whatever, why, you just had to turn around and build it from scratch, and there was no like add-on parts or anything like that I can remember back then. I can remember Jerry Blundy had this one trailer that had like a dolly wheel between the trailer and the car hitch and stuff to kind of take the balance off the trailer and stuff, you know, and everybody was fascinated about that. It had like, it seemed like to me, and I could be wrong, like 2 airplane tires in the front there that kind of held the balance of the trailer and stuff for being pulled with a car. At the time, remember, it was such a big deal. I mean, people, race car drivers come from other states and Arizona and stuff. I remember it used to have what they call the Arizona barn over there once it got to going, and just how it all got started and everything, and it just was quite the deal, and it still is, you know, to this day and everything. I'll never forget, my father was on the board here, and my grandfather was on too. He was the very first president in 1945, and he was on for 40 years, and then my father was on for 30 and stuff, and it's there's so many people, even at this day and age, that you see them as they come in and you visit with them, but you have no idea what their name is and stuff. But you know, you kind of look these people up every year and go say hi to them and stuff like that, and thanks for coming and everything. Yeah, it's that's what's the amazing part is, just people coming from different wakes of life and stuff like that.